Well, good morning. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Miles Ahrens, lead pastor here at Trinity Church in Woodbridge, Connecticut. If you talk much with people who are far from God or searching for God, you realize that they ask a lot of questions. And sometimes those questions are very specific to their background, like, why do some churches baptize infants? And sometimes those questions are very particular to their personal experience, like, why did my daughter get sick? But there are also several general questions that you'll hear over and over again. And these are the same questions that many Christians have and that they ask from time to time. So during this 6-week series, I'm going to focus on trying to answer these 6 basic common questions that people ask about faith. Why believe in God? Why believe the Bible? Why believe in creation? Why believe that God is good? Why believe in the resurrection? And why believe in Jesus? Now, maybe you have a strong faith and you want answers to be able to help answer these questions for other people. And maybe you have a faith, you do believe, but you doubt and you struggle at times, feel unsure about how to answer these questions for yourself. And maybe you don't believe. And you don't believe because you don't think there are answers to these questions. Now, I'm not a scholar in philosophy or in apologetics, but in this series I want to share a little of what some of the scholars are saying and how they're answering these questions to help you to answer them for yourself and for those that you talk with. Today I want to look at the first question, really the starting point for the other questions that we're going to look at. Why believe in God? Now, the latest Gallup poll shows that between 87% and 79% of people in the U.S. do believe in God, depending on how you ask the question. Now that still leaves about 20% or 60 million people here in the U.S. who are either atheists or unsure about God. And these numbers are especially on the rise among younger people who have made very popular some of the best-selling books by the so-called new atheists. The God Delusion by Richard Dawkins, Letter to a Christian Nation by Sam Harris, and God is Not Great by Christopher Hitchens. Many people today don't know if God exists and wonder whether anyone can know if God exists. Many people today have consciously or subconsciously adopted a secular worldview that believes that the physical universe is all that there is, that we live in a world made up of matter, and that's it. There's nothing more. So people ask, why believe in God? Now, the Apostle Peter wrote a letter to a group of believers, and in that letter he said, always be prepared to give an answer to everyone who asks you to give the reason for the hope that you have, but do this with gentleness and respect. Now, this is really our theme verse for this series. We want to be prepared when someone asks us, why do you believe in God? And we want to be able to give an answer to give the reason for the hope that we have. So how can you respond to people who ask you this question? Well, first, you can answer the question intellectually. Josh McDowell wrote, "The heart cannot rejoice in what the mind rejects." I think that's true. Some people do have honest intellectual questions. They need answers that address their questions at that level. So they need an intellectual response. Now, thinking and writing in this area is called natural theology. It does not use the Bible to answer the question. Instead, it uses philosophical arguments that are basically involve logic and reason and what we know about the universe that we live in. Now, several books have been written in this area by some of the best Christian thinkers and philosophers in response to the books by historically and as well as some of these new atheists and the books that they have written, which I mentioned earlier. And your next step may be to get hold of one of these books to help you with your questions. But today, I just want to give you 3 examples of the arguments that some of these scholars present for the existence of God. The first of these is called the cosmological argument. Now, there are many versions of this argument, and they come by different names, but they kind of fit into this category at least. And let me walk through the basic argument and then explain what it says. First, everything that begins to exist has a cause. Second, the universe began to exist. Therefore, the universe has a cause. Now, the first statement here is true because otherwise you're saying that things can just pop into being without a cause. That's sort of like believing in magic. Now, atheists have traditionally denied the second premise here, but philosophical and scientific reason has shown that the universe had a beginning. Philosophically, if the universe never had a beginning, then the number of past events in the history of the universe is infinite, which creates a paradox. How could the present ever arrive if an infinite number of prior events had to elapse first? And then scientifically, if the universe had an infinite past, then we know that it would have already reached the lifeless steady state known as the heat death of the universe through cosmic expansion. Now, scientifically, there's strong evidence to support the Big Bang theory, that the universe had an absolute beginning about 13 billion years ago. The Big Bang is, I consider it pretty amazing because it explains the origin of the universe from literally nothing. All matter, energy, even space and time came into being at the Big Bang. Now it follows then that if the universe came into being, it actually came into being, it had a beginning of its existence, then there must be a transcendent cause that brought the universe into being, a cause that is timeless, spaceless, immaterial, and personal. And that cause is God. The second argument is called the teleological argument, which has to do with the design of the universe. Again, there are many variations that focus on different aspects of design. There's one that I like in particular that's based on the fine-tuning of the universe. This refers to the remarkable ways that the world is tuned for the existence of life. For example, the laws of physics contain mathematical values like the gravitational constant. And these values are not determined by the laws of nature, but by the nature of the universe itself. These 15 or so constants have very precise values, and they fall into an extraordinarily narrow range that allow for the existence of life. As Francis Collins writes, if any of these values was off by even 1/1000th of 1%, the balance that permits life to exist would be destroyed, and there would be no galaxies, stars, planets, or people. So the teleological argument goes like this. Again, somewhat simplified here, but 3 parts again. First, the fine-tuning of the universe is due to either physical necessity, chance, or design. Number 2, it is not due to physical necessity or chance, therefore, it is due to design. Now, the first statement just lists the options for explaining the fine-tuning that has been observed by scientists. The key premise is number 2. However, there's very little that commends either chance or physical necessity as options in a cosmic landscape where the number of different possible universes is around 10 to the 500th power. So that's 10 with 500 zeros after it. That's a lot of different possible universes. And those odds are just too great to leave